Hey guys, Triple B here. We're doing a review of Temporal Forces. The set's going to be coming out pretty soon. The pre-releases will be starting March 15th, and I think the actual set comes out March 20-something or other. I'm doing this live on Twitch, so I can't actually check that. Maybe in post I'll add it in, it'll pop up. And also, yeah, if you didn't know, I do stream over on Twitch, so if you want to catch me live, come on over there, guys. Link to it will be in the description. And for everyone that's watching me live on Twitch right now, they're like, this is really weird. He's live, but it's like I'm watching a YouTube video. It is weird. I agree. It's weird saying this while you guys are here, but we're doing it anyways. So Temporal Forces, a lot of interesting cards coming out in the set. We're getting Paradox Pokémon, Future ones, Ancient ones. Ace Spec cards are making a comeback, and they are all looking pretty solid with the exception of Neo Upper Energy. And yes, we have checked. It is legal. It's fine. Packs looking pretty solid. We're getting the Walking Wake, aka T-Rex Suicune on one. We're getting Long Neck Raikou. Those two I like. You can see why. And yeah, Swords of Justice exists too. They're fun. March 22nd is the release date. MWDC coming in clutch with the big brain info. Yeah, March 22nd. So if you're waiting for the set to come out, thank MW for that one. Tongue got tied there. So in the set, we are getting obviously a lot of filler cards. They like to do that. Scyther. There's already one with free retreat. The attacks on here aren't anything too special. There's a new Pineco coming out. It has 70 HP, 2 retreat costs. If you're running Fortress EX, maybe slot this one in there. I don't really think it matters though. It's just another Pineco. C-Dot line. They are cards. They're probably just going in a binder if you're doing a master set. Other than that, probably going in the bulk bin. Expelling Tornado, 1 grass. Choose 3 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Shuffle your opponent's other bench Pokemon and all cards attached into their deck. Means if they have a full bench of 5, you're getting rid of 2 things. Unless we get Skyfield reprinted and it starts seeing a lot of play, this card is hilariously relevant. But they printed it anyways, so there we go. Shroomish, Breloom, again, like cards that might see play in pre-release. 1 colorless energy, 30 damage. Grass and a colorless, 120. During your next turn, it can't attack. It's all right. The Roselia, Roserade, both of them have an ability that if you hit them, you're poisoned. They attack 70 damage. During your opponent's next turn, they can't retreat, so that poison should be sticking. Like maybe in GLC, if you're trying to make like a status condition deck, I could see that coming up. Other than that, I feel like there's just better ways to do that. Even the poison, like we've already got Brute Bonnet. That's just, hey, if this has a tool card on it, tell your opponent that they're poisoned. It's just better. This exists though. Like it's bulk. That's all it is. I think we're gonna just start skimming past the bulk at this point, to be honest, guys. Turtwig line though. This is where we start seeing some of the cool stuff. MW, imagine playing Shiftry against Lugia and you select everything but the Archeops. Okay, the relevant matchup has come up. There we go. You could do that. And I guess into Charizard, you could select everything but their Charizards and be like, start again. You used your rare candy on the Pidgeot and those Zards. They're not coming back out. Okay, maybe the Shiftry is not super bad, but like it's not great. But the Turtwig, solid shell, takes 20 less damage from attacks, has 80 HP already, effectively giving it 100. Means Greninja can't be dealing with this, right? They're doing 90 to 2 of them. They're taking 20 less. Even if it's on the bench, this ability will be live, so you don't even need a Manaphy to protect it, which is pretty cool. The Grottle, though, you don't really need it. We have one with an ability, Sun-Drenched Shell. Lets you just look through your deck for grass Pokemon, grab it, gets you into Torterras or other Turtwigs or other Pokemon to help set up and just kind of be your main backup engine on there. So like, I don't think this one sees any play, but the Torterra EX is definitely one worth considering. 340 HP. He's a bulky boy. May be the new king of the Turtle Club. Forest March does 30 damage for each grass Pokemon you have in play. So it's not restricted to evolutions, unlike the other Torterra was. So like this is just, hey, get a bunch of grass guys in play. Does count itself because it doesn't say on the bench, just in play. Means for 1 energy, 6 in play, you're doing 180, half heading into stuff, having 340. things are going to be half hitting into you. Also, there is a Whimsicott that when you evolve up into it, discard energy from your Pokemon to fully heal them. You only need 1 energy, so you just ditch that 1 energy, fully heal this, reattach another energy, get going. You 2-shot into things. They're now 3-shotting into you. If you do another Whimsicott, they're now 4-shotting into you. You could run Professor Turo also and just like scoop one up after it's taken a hit. Because you're evolving up manually from like Turtwig to Grotle to this, you've likely got another Grotle on the bench ready to go just into this. So you've scooped it up. You're just starting the process again. It seems like a solid card. I like it. I don't know if it's going to be top tier, but like B or C tier. Definitely B or C. And like the fact that you can combine it with the other Torterra that does 50 for each evolution in play. Full bench of evolutions. You can get up to 300 damage. The new Ace Spec belt that's like 50 damage into EXs. You can be one-shotting things. Its weakness into Zard. So even with this, that 180 that you're doubling, that's a delete a dragon button right there. Also, Tort is very good. People are underrating it. I agree. You a member of the Turtle Club also? Also, welcome to the chat, buddy. Hope you're enjoying it. Just in time for the Temporal Forces on the fly, doing a live review. We're getting a Shaman. That's all I have to say about Shaman. The Whimsicott, this is what we were just talking about. So it's got the ability, lifting heal, once during your turn when you play to evolve into this, heal all damage from your active grass Pokemon. It's clutch. I like it. Saucebuck, once during your turn, you can search your deck for a stadium card. That's kind of cool. I could definitely see that becoming like a 1/1 line in some decks. If Zoroark still existed, just having that as like a tech in Zoro boxes would be pretty cool as well. We're getting a Grubbin. I think there was an interesting Vikavolt we're getting. Because the Chargebug and Vikavolt are lightning types though, we're not going to see them for a bit. Delmise, 80 damage. If you have any bench metal Pokemon, 80 more. Double grass and a colorless to do maybe 1 in 60. I don't know. I don't really see it coming up ever. Doing well. Love the Tort, to be honest. Ever since you read that Grotle. That's good to hear. Yeah, the Sundurn Cell one. He's clutch. I love him. And no, I'm doing good, bud. Doing good. Also, say hi to YouTube also, by the way. We're going to make this into a video as long as I'll stick it out and make it... Well, we get it done in the next 15 minutes. If it hits 10 o'clock though, it's bedtime. We're getting a Bramblegast Weed Spirit. For each prize card your opponent's taken, it gets plus 50 health. So if they've taken 5, we could have a single prizer that has 350 HP. It's a little bit funny, and it's got a coin flip attack. For each energy attached to this Pokemon, 80 damage for each heads. I don't hate that card. It's not going to be relevant, but it's funny. It is funny. Oh, Corson, raffle. Yes. No, we got to restart the raffle. Raffle's still going. We'll open it up. It's open until we are done this. And I'm realizing I have clicked off of the thing. We are looking at the raffles. You're seeing behind the scenes. Just ignore that. You saw nothing. The Bramblegast is sick in GLC. Honestly, Bramblegast would be pretty cool for GLC. Scavillion EX. So I know this one did see a bit of play in Japan. I think it helped out into... Was it into Zard? You just run the single prize one for that. Why was this seeing play? Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. Okay. And 140, ditch a random card from your opponent's hand. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. I feel like I'm missing something because I swear that did see a bit of play in Japan. We're getting it now, though. I don't see it seeing play, but happily stand corrected. If anyone in chat remembers why that was seeing some play in Japan, please let me know. The Rabska, that's effectively Manaphy, Jirachi, baby. But it's stage 1. It just went like Fusion Ha, slap those 2 cards together. Gives you bench protection. Gives you protection from effects, or is it damage counters? Prevent all damage and effects of attacks done to your bench Pokemon. Yeah, so like it stops Sableye, which is pretty cool. Stage 1, a little bit risky. So before you get this online, Sableye or Greninja can take care of it off the bench. Manaphy will be rotating eventually though. Like Manaphy's an F block. This is going to be a H block. So once Manaphy rotates, this might be our bench protection guy for a bit. I hope not, but it's there if we need it. Rapska is very good in a meta where Manaphy and Jirachi don't exist. Shuts off Serena too. That's true. Would protect you from Serena. That's an interesting call. Iron Leaves EX. So this one, aka the Charizard Slayer. The ability Rapid Vernier. Once during your turn, when you play this from your hand onto your bench, you can slot it into the active and move any number of energy from your bench Pokemon to this Pokemon. So it's sort of like Tapu Koko GX that we used to have. I like it. Hits weakness into Charizard, does 180, meaning you're doing 360, one-shotting it, 2 grass and a colorless. So like any deck where you just have some space, chuck some grass energy into it, just use it. Like if you have colorless attack cost to play for it, go for it. Giratina V-Star, for example, like you could slot this in as, hey, Star Requiem, 1 Zard, Iron Leaves, another Zard. You're fine. Then just kill 2 other things, like Sableye, 2 basics or something. Ponyta, Rapidash, they're going in the bulk, let's be honest. Slugma, Magcargo, so another ability stage 1 guy. We're seeing quite a few this set, actually. Lava Pool, whenever your opponent's active Pokemon boosts the bench during their turn, the new active is now burned. Interesting way to fix up damage. Burn doing 20. If we get a way to kind of boost up that damage, though, it'd be neat. Like there used to be an Infernape that I think put burn up to 60. If we get something like that again, I could see this seeing some play. It's good paired up with the Cobalion. The Iron Leaves? Yeah, that's not a bad shout. 2 Cobalion gets you up to 220. You can one-shot like Miraidons and stuff. Or is Miraidon 230? 230 or 220. But 220 is a good number. One-shot's Chimpao at least. Check a future boost capsule on it. 240. Gets you some good numbers. Heatmore. Flip 3 coins for each tails. Discard an energy from this Pokemon. Like, what are these? What are they printing these for? It's just filling packs at this point. The Litten line. So Littens, I like this Litten line that we're getting. The Litten and the Torracat are whatever. They evolve into Incineroar once the good ones rotate. Like there's a Litten that has Reprisal. So like for each damage counter on it, it's 20 damage or 30 damage that it can return into it. There's a Torracat that does 40 damage if it's at full health. It can't be knocked out. Like it survives with 10, so then you use that, you combo into the Litten. Incineroar, there was one that could copy attacks of basics. We're getting a Relicanth that lets you do that, but this Incineroar is an EX, so he's a big dude that has more health, so if you use it in Relicanth to copy Reprisal, you can just delete whatever you want. And it's already got solid attack on it though. So similar to like Radiant Charizard, where it's reducing its attack cost based on certain conditions, except Radiant Charizard has to wait until you've given up prizes. This is just, hey, have you put things on your bench? Cool. For each thing on your bench, 1 less colorless energy to attack. That's sick. That's pretty solid. 4 colorless energy in the attack to do 240. They've got 4 things on their bench. 1 fire energy, 240. Burns them also, so effectively 260 if it bounces back to you, 280. With that 260 though, if you give this the belt to do an extra 50 into EXs, you're doing 310. You could run it with Rapidash, ditch a fire energy, your fire Pokemon do 30 more damage, you're doing 340, you're deleting any stage 2 EX currently in the format. That's nice. You're not knocking out a Wigglytuff EX. But like anything else, I said stage 2. That's stage 1. A loophole has been found. Poison Raging Bolt can be in the Lost Box team. You could probably find a way to make Raging Bolt work in Lost Box. Turtonator, 40 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Like, not even GLC, because GLC we have Ho-Oh that does the same thing for 2 colorless energy and does 50 to anything. No, Turtonator, I'm sorry, man. Bulk. Sizzlipede, Centiskorch. Nah, skipping over that. Gorging Fire EX. So 260 damage. Can't use the attack Exploding Flare again until it leaves the active spot. So you do need to run this with quite a few switch cards to be able to pivot it around. Similar, though, to what we just said about Incineroar, you could be comboing this with Rapidash to boost that damage up. 1 Rapidash gets you to 290. You're deleting V-Stars. Put the belt on it, 340. You're knocking out anything. You can use Magma Basin to get energy on it. You can use Professor Sada to get energy on it. You can set this up pretty consistently. 230 HP, so not too bulky, but you could put like Bravery Charm on it if you wanted to go for like a heftier build, but I feel like you're more so going for the I can hit really big numbers really quickly. That's probably what you're going for. You can use Zard EX to accelerate. You can also use Zard EX to accelerate. I don't know if I'd go that route. I feel like if I was using this, it would be maybe a one-off in Zard just for like early game, or if they have a like a grass attacker for weakness, then we have this to counter their grass weakness. But also we just hit 260, so we just delete them. Meowscarada though, yeah, weakness. Or Torterra. Zard for accelerating is definitely an interesting concept though. The Totodile Alliance. I know a lot of people are excited about this. We're getting Feraligatr, Torrent Heart. You can put 5 damage counters onto it. If you do, its attack's going to do 120 more. The attack does 160, so with that 120 extra, you're doing 280. You're taking out any stage 1 EX. You're taking out the V-Star Pokemon. It's good. Into stage 2 EXs, it does get a little bit awkward. If they're not Terra types, though, you could be running this with like Radiant Greninja and just find a way to get water energy onto them. Maybe pair it with like Palkia V-Star or something. But yeah, it's just one of those kind of tricky things. Interesting rogue deck. It'll definitely see some play. It's going to be one of the pre-release promos, so it'll definitely see play over in pre-release. Blueberry, you got an ad? Yeah, sorry, man. I think Twitch runs them every half hour or so they pop up. There's a way to get rid of them. There's a way to get rid of them, though. Sharpedo, flip 3 coins for each head. Ditch a random card from your opponent's hand. And does 50 damage. Okay. A little bit of disruption, a little bit of damage. I feel like for control decks, there's better ways to do them, but gives you another option. Keldio's going in the bulk. Frostmoth, oh, it's going in the bulk. Wiglet, search your deck for an item card, reveal it, put it into your hand. For control, that actually has some potential. I could see that coming up. The hand clippers that we have, Crushing Hammer, getting into like disruptive Ace Specs. Okay. For control decks, that's an interesting one to include. Finazin, Palafin, 130, does 10 damage to itself for each damage counter on it. So like at full health, 130, no drawback. If it takes a little bit of a chip damage, at what point is it knocking itself out? 7 damage counters on it. It takes 7, goes to 140. Okay, so if it has 8 damage counters on it, it knocks itself out. So if your opponent uses Greninja onto 2 Palafins, they're both like, well, it's not worth it anymore. Interesting card. I don't see it coming up. There's another Palafin that when you evolved into it or when you switched into it, it did 210. And people thought, oh, that'll see play. And it just didn't. And this is just worse. Cool, though. I like him. Like, maybe for GLC. Walking Wake EX. I like this guy. I think it's actually got some potential and people are kind of overlooking it, especially if we see some more support for status conditions. So the ability on it is damage from this Pokemon's attacks is not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So things like Goodra, that's like, oh, I take less damage. It's like, no, you take all the damage. Or like, oh, if you have abilities, you don't do damage to me. It's like, my ability says, no, you do take damage. Especially against Mimikyu. Exactly. Mimikyu is just no. Just, that's cute that you have an ability, but I too, and shred. And then the attack, though, is an interesting bit. So, well, not that that wasn't interesting. That was really interesting too. But the attacks also it's got some quirks. 120. If they're affected by a special condition, 120 more. Special conditions we're going to be considering are obviously the ones doing damage. Like, yeah, if they're paralyzed or confused or something, asleep, you can do extra damage to them. So if like you're trying to go for like a stall variant, that could be cool. Maybe we get something that puts things to sleep. We get like a fluffy pillow Flaffy again. That'd be funny. But this 240, double colorless and a water, so you could go like DTE attack or yeah, DTE Sada water to it if you really want to get going. But the fact that it's an ancient Pokemon, yeah, it's probably just Sada attached for turn. Do it again the next turn, or like E-switch from something else onto it, like Sada to 2 things go. because it's water, you'd likely be running it with Radiant Greninja to get the energy in the discard to proc the Sada. Also have Radiant Greninja to set up damage, so 90 to 2 things. This comes out just 240. All up, that's what, 330? Pretty good number to hit. Obviously, into Terra Pokemon, Radiant Greninja can't hit them if they're on the bench, but it could be setting up for other things. If you're putting Burn on it, though, 240 effectively becomes 260. If you're putting Poison on it, though, that's where my mind goes. You poison them, they take 10 between turns. That's 250. We have Radiant Sneasler, another 20. That puts you to 270. We're getting a new Stadium that puts another 2 damage counters. That puts you to 290. You give this a belt to do 50 more into EXs, you're at 340. These are relevant numbers. Ancient Pokemon, they've got Ancient Boost Capsule. Gives them 60 HP extra? 50 or 60? I think it's 60. And if you give one of those to Brute Bonnet, it says you can poison your opponent's Pokemon. So that's how we're getting poison on it. So you're kind of just building this like cloth. Except with Sadas and water and Greninjas. I like it. It's neat. It's definitely got potential and super keen to test it. Pikachu evolves into Raichu. Raichu does 50 damage to each Pokemon with damage counters on it other than this Pokemon. It says all Pokemon. Which means your own. And the thing is, Manaphy protects your bench guys from your opponent's attacks. It doesn't protect your bench from your attacks. So if your guys are damaged in any way, Raichu could be bench wiping itself. It's funny. Interesting spread Pokemon. Lightning and a colorless to do it. Flappy is rotating, so getting that charged up, a little bit awkward. Obviously, the Electro Generator can get you there. Keen to see if it sees play. I'm sure someone will try and make it work. For GLC, I like it for GLC. GLC, you can make lightning spread decks. There's Electivire that does 50 to everything. There is Tapu Koko that does 20 to everything. There is Regieleki that does 40 to 2 things, and there's definitely another 1 or 2 in there. I have my lightning deck built as spread, but it's been a while since I played it. But that's what comes to mind for me, is GLC for this. And maybe in standard you can make it work. An early Raichu can hurt a lot though. Yeah, like if you have the damage counters out though, that's the thing, right? Like you'd need to have Gapejaw Bog down to get the damage counters out, or you'd have to go into like Hitmonlee and spread them around, or like Haluchas ping things. It's getting the damage counters out that's going to be the weird bit. That's why I'm thinking for GLC it's cool, because it's like you get the damage counters out with Tapu Koko, and then it's like you go into this. You have Flappies, you have Electrikes to get the energy onto it. Counter energy even. It'll be cool. With tools for more damage. There was Telescopic Sight. I think it was exclusively to V Pokemon on the bench. And that's rotated. I don't know if we have anything else that can boost damage to bench guys. Speaking of Electivires though, Circuit Knuckle, 40 damage if your opponent has any water Pokemon in play, 120 more. So if they're playing Manaphy, you can do 160 for double colorless. That's cool. And the Vikavolt. So Charge Bug exists to evolve into this if you aren't using Rare Candy for some reason. And when you go into this, it does 120 damage and 80 more damage for each of your bench Charge Bug. So you're going to be going Rare Candy into this, and you're going to be having these, ideally, being manually evolved up in the bench. When the initial one gets knocked out, then this evolves up into it, and you just kind of try and keep cycling them onto your bench. Lightning Pokemon, Electro Generator to get it online. It's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely got potential. I feel like it would have been a lot stronger if Zoroark was still in rotation, but if Zoroark was still in rotation, it would be way too good. So they're not allowed to exist at the same time. We're getting a new Zeraora, 20 damage, flip a coin. If heads, the active Pokemon is now paralyzed. For pre-release, solid card. Colorless energy to do it, 20 damage, buys you a turn. Very good. Standard, probably not. It doesn't even have free retreat, so I don't really see this coming up, but it's definitely an interesting one to keep your eye on. If you hit it in pre-release though, this is a solid inclusion to have in decks. Also hits weakness into water types, so into like for alligator matches, for example, you can be setting up damage into Totodiles and buying yourself some time. Blueberry, what was the Zoroark card? There's a Zoroark as a stage 1 that had Phantom Transformation that just let it switch into another stage 1 in your discard pile. So if you could use that to switch into Charger Bugs, it would be absolutely broken. Boltund, Electrifying Dash, 50 damage. Search your deck for up to 2 basic lightning energy cards and attach them to your bench Pokemon any way you like. I don't see it coming up, I'll be honest. No, you meant that helps Zoroark. I was talking about with Charjabug. So there's the Charjabug and Vikavolt. Vikavolt does extra damage for each Charjabug on the bench. So having Zoroark to just swap into Charjabugs and just be able to like recycle them so that you could go rare candy from Grubbin into Vikavolt, and then the Zoroarks are becoming the Charjabugs. So you could have theoretically 4 Charjabugs on your bench doing just stupid damage with Vikavolt. Wugtrio EX, Terra Pokemon, so it doesn't take damage if it's on the bench. Troika Pump, discard 3 energy cards from your hand and choose one of your opponent's Pokemon to 60 damage to that Pokemon for each energy you ditch. It's cool. It gives a little bit of snipe potential. Also gives lightning coverage into water decks since it is a Terra Pokemon. You're using water energy for these attacks. It's interesting. Tingly Bolt, 120. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat, so you can lock things in the active. Yeah, definitely an interesting one. Maybe for water decks, it becomes coverage into Lugia. Choice Belt on it, you're doing 150... 300 with weakness. It's not bad, and even just locking them in the active is also pretty good because like Lugia doesn't run a lot of switch, and then it's just like, hey, you've tanked a hit. I'm gonna finish you with a Radiant Greninja that I'm also running because I'm a water deck. I like it. Iron Hands, 80 damage if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX or V, 80 more. Cool. Iron Thorns, 70 damage, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, 70 damage for each future card you find there. Discard the future cards revealed in this way. Interesting. I kind of want to make a deck for that. It reminds me of like Chandelure. Lightning, so you E-gen to it. Run Reboot Bot, get multiples online, and then just a bunch of future cards. We'll play around with that one. That'll be some shenanigans. It won't be good, but it'll be fun. Alto, water coverage into Lugia. Well, we have Iron Hands. No, so for water type decks, having a lightning attacker for into Lugia, not Lugia needing a attacker to cover for water types. The other way around. If Lugia starts seeing play, it becomes an answer that you can have in water type decks to hit for weakness. Like, yeah, you could run Iron Hands. You'd have to run the lightning energy for it though. So this is just like if you're running a purely water deck. Like if you're not running like Baxcalibur, for example. Because yeah, for like Chinpow, it's hey, Baxcalibur, pay for the colorless, Northern Vessel, get into the lightning energy, attach, attack. But yeah, Iron Hands is likely the better for that. If you don't have a way to accelerate though. Because like water decks that are using, for example, Palkia V-Star as a means to get the energy out, you can't use Palkia V-Star onto Iron Hands. So it's just something to consider. Mr. Mime Show, your opponent reveals their hands. You can use the effect of a supporter card you find there as the effect of this attack. That's cool. I like it. We've had things that have done that in the past. I think there was a Smeargle that did the same thing. So like I could see this coming up. Meryl, Ball Roll. Flip a coin until you get tails. 10 damage for each. I think we're just skimming past these guys. There's a Giraffe Rig. It evolves into a Frigoraph that's interesting. I think he's a Dark Terra Pokemon though, so we'll see him a bit. Bronzong. This one is a little silly. The 30 damage, your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their Pokemon during their next turn. We have a supporter card that lets you essentially accelerate evolution of a non-rule box Pokemon. So you could play that. You could immediately evolve into this. You can attach a psychic energy and you can lock your opponent out from being able to evolve. Unlike things like Venomoth, where it's preventing items, so it's like, oh, well, you're going to rare candy into a Charizard. Now you can't. You have to manually evolve up slowly. This is just like, you can't even evolve into Charmeleons. Can they use candy? No. So candy allows you to play a Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon. This is saying you can't play any Pokemon from your hand to evolve any of your Pokemon. So it's like, you can't play candy because to do candy is enabling a second step. But the second step isn't allowed because of this attack. So candy won't get around it. You'd have to like gust something else up and hope they can't switch into this to lock you out of evolving again. Because the effect is on the player, not while this Pokemon's in play, you can't evolve. It's just straight up, you can't play Pokemon from your hand. You like this card? It's your favorite so far, Blueberry? Yeah, it's a little silly. What are we getting here? Runiculus, Summoning Gate. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck. Put any number of Pokemon you find there onto the bench. Doesn't do any damage. It's a stage 2. I don't see this coming up. Like, we used to have Chandelure that did a similar thing. It was like ditch 5 or ditch 6 for each Pokemon there, do 60 damage for any fire Pokemon. You can put them onto your bench. So you can cheat out evolutions that way while also taking knockouts. This is just cheating out evolutions with no other effect. I don't really see it coming up. Cool concept to play around with, but realistically, it doesn't seem relevant. Behem. Cosmic Beat, 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play. So, what's that? 120? 120 for a Psychic on a stage 1. Nothing else going for it. All right, moving on. Ribombee, 30 damage. If the defending Pokemon is knocked out during your next turn, take 2 more prizes. That's kind of cool. So if you know they don't run a lot of switch cards, it's you do this, you put a bit of chip damage into them, and then do you have a way to finish that knockout the next turn? I like that. So like into EX Pokemon, it's like, hey, if you don't move that, I'm going to take 4 prizes off of it. And if you knock it out with Iron Hands, you're going to take 5 prizes. Lil Taunt, you're saying the Lycanroc's really good for GLC. Is he fighting type? I don't think we've got there yet. Have we? I didn't skim past fighting, did I? No, we haven't got to fighting yet. Screamtail. We have a better Screamtail. I'm sorry, Screamtail. Fluttermane, it's got an ability. As long as this is in the active, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities except for Fluttering Dusk. So into Lost Box, this shuts down Comfeys. It'll shut down Klefki's, I believe. I think it's dependent on which came into the active first. So if Klefki is sitting in the active, then you switch your Fluttermane into the active after, it should shut it off, or it's the other way around. Ask a judge, they'd know better. I think it's whatever came in next. The effect applies next. It's basically a better Klefki since it stops not only basic, but all Pokemon. Yeah, it's like if there's a Charizard EX, or if there's a Charmander in the active, they rare candy into Charizard, you don't search your energy. It does nothing. If Pidgeot's in the active, can't do anything. Lugia's in the active, they try and V-Star. Nah. Arceus? Nah. It's cool. It gives a lot of coverage into things. Obviously, your opponent can play around it, but it's just asking them to have additional resources and strategically position their board so that they can do those things. MW, whichever effective that's active first. Okay, so if Klefki was in the active, you switch into Fluttermane, it wouldn't shut off the Klefki. If Fluttermane was in the active, they threw down Klefki and tried to come into the active and nothing would happen. All right, interesting. Single prize Iron Valiant, 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. For colorless energy, it's not bad. Again, like for pre-release to set up numbers, an interesting inclusion. Zenblade, 120 during your next turn, it can't use Zenblade. It's all right. Like, might give you some type coverage in a single prize Future Box deck. Another single prize Iron Valiant. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put them back in any order so you can set up your next turn's top deck. And if you're seeing some other things, like, hey, I want to hit specifically these 2 cards for some reason, it could come up. Like, if there's anything that it's reveal a top card, do this. It's cool. Iron Crowns EX, this is a big one. So this is going to boost the attack damage of all your future Pokemon by 20. You can stack them, so you can have multiple in play to boost the damage of, for example, Iron Hands, or even Iron Crown, or Iron Valiant and start doing some pretty silly stuff. The attack is a psychic double colorless, so you can pay for it with DTE, 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. If you're hitting the active, you'd be boosting your own damage. Oh no, it's not. Excluding any iron counts, you're not boosting your own damage. You'd just be doing 50 to the active, and then you could like snipe a bench thing or set up things onto things on the bench. Or just, hey, if you're running this with Iron Valiant, you go Iron Valiant, 20 on something, another Iron Valiant, 20 on something. If those were 70 HP basics, you use this 50-50. That's pretty big. Did I read the second attack of the second Iron Valiant? I don't think I did I? Majesty Sword, 100 damage. If you played a future supporter card from your hand during this turn, 100 more damage? That's not bad. I don't mind that. Pair that with an Iron Crown or have a future boost capsule on there, 220. Yeah, I can get behind that. Really good with Xatu. I can see that. Metacham, straight to the bulk. Relicanth, we talked about him earlier when we were referencing the Iron Incineroar. Incineroar, that's how you say that word. Makes it so your evolved Pokemon can use the attacks of pre-evolutions. Pretty cool. Gives you a little versatility to decks. Getting a Drillbur. When you play this from your hand onto your bench, you can search your deck for 3 basic fighting energy and discard them. So a cool way to get Koraidon online. The fact that you need to be able to get this into your hand, play it on the bench, somehow get Koraidon out also. Like it's a lot of steps, but it's a way to do it. It's also a way just to get like fighting energy in the discard for Sada potentially. I feel like there's better ways to do it, but it's another tool to have in the box. Second Iron Valiant looks really good with Xatu. Played with Crypto is great. Okay. Extradil. It exists. The Golett, flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks. That's pretty cool. If we get a good Golurk to pair it with, buys your turn at least. It looks like Golurk has the same attack, and then it also has 120 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is Pokemon EX or V, 120 more, so 240. It's a fighting Pokemon. You can scale up with Grant or colorless energy to get it online, so you could splash this into a number of decks, right? Like you could run this with Excalibur if you wanted a weakness coverage for Arceus or Lightning decks, but I feel like you just go Chin-Pao, delete whatever's in the active. But it's an option. Getting a new Rockruff and Lycanroc. So someone was saying earlier Lycanroc's good for GLC. What is he doing? 50 damage. Attach up to 2 fighting energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. Okay, I can see that coming up. I run my fighting decks as like big basics that hit pretty good numbers, and you just scale it up. If you're going for the evolution route and need a way to accelerate some energy, this seems like a good way to do it. So yeah, it's definitely one. If you pull it, I'd say hang on to it. Mudbray, Mudsdale, attach basic fighting energy from your discard pile to each of your bench Pokemon. Is there any fighting Pokemon right now that care about the amount of energy in play? Killer Bee fighting has so many ways for attaching. Yeah, like it's not a card that necessarily stands out to me, but someone had mentioned earlier it looks good for GLC, so if they have an idea for it, keen to hear it. To me, yeah, it kind of just, it's another card. Koraidon EX. You'll play Mudsdale with Koraidon EX? Yeah. Alright, could see that. Roly-Coly evolves to Corco, evolves to maybe relevant Colossal. 40 damage, does 80 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. Okay, so if we get a way to accelerate multiple fire energies, could be all right. There has been an Infernape recently revealed that does a fire and a fighting from hand. So you could... it's getting 2 stage 2s online though. No, I don't think this is going to be relevant. Cool Pokemon, unfortunate attack. It seems like it needs a lot. How many would you even need on there for it to be relevant anyways? 3 fire, you're doing 240, 280. 4 fire, you're one-shotting anything in format? Like maybe? Attach a reversal energy. That'd be kind of cool actually. This with a reversal energy. That I could get behind. Great Tusk, 80 damage if any of your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them. I read that really weird. If your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them, it does 80 more damage. Okay, so 160 for your fighting double colorless. It is an ancient Pokemon, so we've got the Soda engine to get it online. It's not too bad. We're getting another Great Tusk though. Crust Collapse, and it's effectively just mill, right? So discard the top card of your opponent's deck. If you played any ancient supporter cards from your hand during this turn, ditch 3 more cards. I know there's people who are going to try and make this work. The ancient supporter you're going to play each turn is Soda, right? So attach Soda, mill, rinse, repeat. I hope mill doesn't become relevant again. I really hope. Blueberry, the new Wug. It's Wug, but it doesn't miss. It does less, but it's a basic. It gets online faster, and you can start using it as early as the first turn if you go second. Tusk Mill's already a deck in Japan. Is it doing well though? Like, I know people are playing it, but are they doing well with it? So single price Sandy Shocks, Magnetic Blast, 20 damage. If you have 3 or more energy in play, this does 70 more damage. 90? Okay. The damage isn't affected by weakness. So it's just, I guess it's good for into single prize matchups, right? Like you throw this down, you have a bunch of stuff on the bench. Hey, this can knock out like a Charmander or a Manaphy or a Comfey without putting a 2-prizer in the active. So if you have a 2-prize deck, like Raging Bolt EX, for example, you want a bunch of energy out. You're using Sandy Shocks EX to get a bunch of energy out, and then you can just chuck this in the active and do some stuff. Definitely a good one to have as like a 1 or 2 of in your collection for techs, but not seeing any immediate use cases pop up outside of that. Iron Boulder EX, fighting on a colorless, 60 damage, and if this Pokemon takes damage from an attack during your opponent's next turn, put 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So it could be fighting coverage for future box decks, right? If you're running with Iron Crown, you can scale this damage up a little bit to try and deal with Miraidons. So 2 Iron Crowns puts you to 100. Future Boost Capsule, 120, doubles to 240, one-shot a Miraidon. Okay. And also just to put 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, even if you're not one-shotting them. It's, hey, if you hit me, you're going down. I like that. Killer Bee, it's Durant without needing more Durants. The Great Tusk, yeah. Yeah, because the Durant was like for each one in play, right? Is Durant still in rotation? Was he E-block or F-block? I think Durant's still around even after rotation. Or was he like Fusion Strike? Fusion Strike or Battle Sliders or something? Arbok, I think we're just skimming past that one. The Ghastly line. We're getting Gengar EX, and I'm kind of keen on it. The ability, whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to one of their Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on it. You can have multiples of these in play to scale that effect up. It doesn't say it's limited to just one Gengar. And the attack, double dark. So you go attach, return, dark patch, 160 damage. You can move an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon to one of their bench Pokemon. It's pretty good. So into other stage 2 EXs, you hit them twice, that's 320. They typically have 330 or more. But if they're attaching an energy, right? Like you're moving an energy off them. They have to attach another energy. They take damage. You hit them again, they're knocked out. Like it fixes up that 2-shot for you. And if you have multiple Gengars in play, it's, hey, if you're attaching energy, it's fixing up my numbers for me. I like it. I'm keen. I don't think it's going to be like crazy good. I think it's going to be pretty good. The effect are the fact that it only gets the damage when it's from hand though. So like Charizard will be getting around that with its ability. Does complicate the numbers a little bit, but no, I'm still keen. I'm going to try and find a way to make it work. Poochyena, I think we're just going to skim past you. Farigiraf? I hope I said that right. Farigiraf EX. So it's a Terra-type Pokemon. Doesn't take damage when it's on the bench. Oh, is it a Terra-type Pokemon? Oh, I think it's a Terra-type Pokemon. Yeah, he's got a little hat on him. Yeah, Terra type Pokemon, so it doesn't take damage on the bench when it's on the bench. Well, it doesn't take bench damage. You can tell it's getting late when. But yeah, it's effectively just safe on the bench. Plus, its ability is going to prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks of your opponent's basic Pokemon EX. So like the Chin Pals, they're more Eidolons, you don't have to worry about them. Sneaky Beam, 160 damage, that does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's cool. Something about that ability though, obviously your opponent can just use evolved DXs to hit you. They can use single prize Pokemon to hit you. Like Chin Pao, they just go, okay, I'll hit you with a Baxcalibur. They have ways around it. 160, Baxcalibur's got 170, so unless you set up damage into it previously, they're going to get around it. You do 160, 30 to another Baxcalibur though, then just gust up the other Baxcalibur, hit this, 30 damage to it. If they don't have Manaphy, you're fixing up your prize race that way. Kilby, all these fighting options are looking good if Gengar's going to be around. True. Is Gengar fighting weak or grass weak? He is fighting weak, which is weird because he's a ghost. You shouldn't be able to punch him, but is what it is, eh? So we are getting a single prize Roaring Moon, and it's looking pretty solid. Vengeful Feathers, 70 damage and 10 more damage for each ancient card into your discard pile. Not Pokemon, not supporters, any ancient Pokemon. So you're running this with Sada, you're running this with the new, I think it's called Explorer or something. You have that, you've got multiples of these Roaring Moons, multiple Earthen Vessels, Flutter Mains, Roaring Moon EXs. There's a lot of ways to make this work. I did do a Roaring Moon EX post-rotation build, and it's got him in there. So if you want to check that video out, recommend it. And even just this as a single prize deck, I feel like it's going to do some solid work. We're getting a Caesar EX. Steel Wing, 70 damage during your opponent's next turn. It takes 50 less damage from attacks. Not bad. We're getting a Stadium to boost up that damage reduction even more, and we do have Rigid Band to make it take even less damage. So 50 less from this attack, 30 less from the Stadium, 30 less from Rigid Band. That gets you to 110 less damage. It's not massive like damage output you're doing, but then you're tanking a hit, and then you just go into the second attack that does 120 damage. Dish up to 2 steel energy from this Pokemon to do 120 for each energy you discard. So that's 240 plus the 70 of the previous attack gets you to 310. It's a pretty good number. You can have a Vitality Band on there. So the first attack becomes 80. The second attack becomes 250. You're getting up to 330. You're dealing with Charizards in like a 1-2 combo. So definitely an interesting concept there. Getting a Mawile, Teasing Invitation. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. Does 30 damage to the new active. It's like a bit of a way to kind of mess around with your opponent's bench. It's Steel type, hits weakness into Frigibax. So if they're running the 60 HP one, you could like mess around with them. It's alright. The Beldum line. I'm keen for this. So Matang, Metal Maker. Once during your turn, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose any number of basic steel energy you find there and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. You can run multiples of these. You could potentially be looking at 16 cards each turn and attaching them to things. You run this with Dialga V-Star. You can get that V-Star attack online. You can gust up a Squawkabilly or a Luminion, knock it out with the V-Star attack, does 220, you take another turn, you have a bunch of energy on it, you knock out anything else, and now all of a sudden you have a 4 prize lead. I like it. It also enables a number of other decks, because it's not saying you can only attach these to Steel Pokemon. So you can be paying colorless attack costs into other decks that are struggling for energy acceleration. You can be running this with Cooper Raja EX. You could be running this with Revroom EX. It just opens up a lot of possibilities. So yeah, I'm keen to give it a go. Blueberry, you're very close to make the Tool deck work. The Honchkrow one? You wild, man. You wild. Kilowee, no way are we going to do that. Florges? What are you talking about? Florges exists. What? I feel like I missed something. Why are we talking about Florges? MW, you're liking this with Dialga and the plus 100 HP Ace Spec. That's not a bad shout. Obviously, be careful of Lost Vacuum, but like, no, that's pretty cool. The Metagross we're getting for this, it's alright. 60 damage. Use it again, 60 more damage. Second attack, 200 damage. It's like, you can be trying to do some combo hits. I'm hoping we get a Metagross EX at some point. I feel like we will. They usually show some love to Metagross. Like, he got a GX, he got a VMAX. He'll get an EX. Getting a new Melmetal. It's going in the bulk. We're getting Iron Treads. Dual core, it counts as a fighting and steel type as long as it has a future booster capsule attached to it. So it can give you some type coverage in a single prize future box deck. 60 damage movement energy from this to one of your bench Pokemon. Scale that up with Iron Crown, scale it up with that future boost capsule. You can be doing some pretty relevant numbers. Getting a single prize Koraidon, 30 damage for each of your ancient Pokemon in play. It's going to be one of the pre-release promos and seems like it'll be pretty strong as long as we get multiple ancient Pokemon in those. The second attack has Shred as well, so 130 goes through anything. That's going to be cool. Single prize ancient box decks are looking like they are going to be pretty good. There is another Koraidon EX coming out. I think this is the third one we've seen. And it's still not that great. But double colorless, 20 damage, 10 more damage for each damage counter on it. It has effectively like a revenge attack. Ancient Pokemon, you can give it Ancient Booster Capsule to get it up to 290 to do like return hits into things. It's okay. Second attack already does 280 though, so you're basically doing the same thing as the first attack, but without having damage, but then damaging yourself to set up the first attack. It seems bad. If you guys have any ideas to make that work, let me know, but it seems bad. Miraidon, on the other hand, though, the single prize one also looks pretty good. It's 40 damage. Search your deck for 2 basic energy, attach them to your future Pokemon in any way you like, so it's a good way to get your attackers charged up. And also apply a bit of damage. Scales up with Iron Crown, so you can be taking out single prize Pokemon. If you got 2 Iron Crowns or a booster capsule on there, get up to 80. Deal with like a Comfey or Frigibax or Charmander while accelerating energy. It seems really good. Miraidon EX, 60 damage if your opponent's active already has any damage counters on it, 100 more. Like, it's not bad. And then the second attack, 220. And it can't use that attack on the next turn. Is that just the same? That's just the same attack that Miraidon EX already has, but this one's a dragon type. Okay, cool. Cool. Raging Bolt EX. This one's neat. So I did also do a video for this, and it seems pretty strong. The idea is you're going to run it with like Sandy Shocks EX, get a bunch of energy on your board, Sada, get energy out. The attack does 70 damage. Well, multiplier 70. You can discard any amount of basic energy attached to this Pokemon. Or not attached to this Pokemon, to any of your Pokemon in play. And it's going to do 70 damage for each card you discarded in this way. Also, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, apologies. It is the end of a stream on a weeknight and I am sleepy. Tripping over my tongue. But we're doing it. I was supposed to end the stream half an hour ago. We're almost there though, guys. But yeah, so you can get up to some pretty solid numbers. 5 energy gets you to 350. You can knock out any stage 2 EX Pokemon with the Sandy Shock Sada combo. You can get energy out pretty effectively. It seems good. Like Sada, get a lightning energy. Get a lightning energy on another one. Attach a fighting for turn. Proc 3 Sandy Shocks. You're doing some relevant numbers. I think we're skipping over these guys. The Dunsparce and Dunsparce are interesting. So Dunsparce has free retreat. The Dunsparce doesn't, but its ability lets you just shuffle this Pokemon back into your deck and draw 3 cards. Like, you can use this as a pivot. Pivot as the basic, pivot as the stage 1, and draws you cards. And unlike Bibarel, you aren't going to be locked in the active, right? Because like there's some games where it's, oh, I'm running Bibarel, cool, boss that in the active, what are you going to do? Like, oh, I'm running Dunsparce, cool, boss that in the active, what are you going to do? Oh, well, I'm just going to bounce it out. Yeah, okay, yeah, good answer. Blueberry, you think this is good for Guardy? Really? The Dunsparce? Why do you think that'd be good with Guardy? Like as a pivot? Not to Dunsparce? Are you talking about something else? Are you talking about the Raging Bolt EX? Yeah, maybe. That's a lot of energy you'd be trying to run, but the Guardy to be able to accelerate out like an infinite amount of psychic energy. Well, not infinite, but like you have 6 in the bin, consistently getting them out. Yeah, I could see that working. I think we just skip past these dudes. Pit of Emergency Evolution. If this has 30 or less health remaining, search your deck for an Oozifant or Oozifant EX. We haven't seen Oozifant EX yet, but it does tell us it's probably coming. It's at least future-proofed it, and you can just evolve it. That's cool. Run it with Gapejaw Bog, comes into play, immediately takes 20 damage, immediately evolves. You don't even need rare candy. I like it. Tranquil, you don't even need to exist. We're just skipping you entirely. And Oozifant, 70 damage, put 2 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. So decks that are reliant on energy acceleration by means that aren't repeatable are going to struggle. Charizard, they put 2 fire energy onto themselves, 1 fire energy somewhere else. So you go, all right, cool, put those 2 fire energy into your hand. They then need to manually attach to get the one that's in the active charged up, or they have to switch into the bench one they've been trying to set up. They switch into the bench one, you go, okay, cool. I go into another Oozifant, bounce those 2 into your hand. And then they're manually attaching to things, and it's like, you just keep flicking them back. Lost Box, same thing. The Mirage Gate, you just go, okay, bounce those back. They have a finite amount of those, so you can just keep flicking them back. Obviously, they do have Cramorant. The Cramorant could come out and mess around with things, and Sableye only needs 1 energy, but if they're trying to attack with anything else, you can kind of mess them around. Decks that have infinite energy acceleration though, so like Excalibur, they're just going to laugh in your face and delete you. Cool card. I'm keen to see if it does become like a solid control option, because it seems good. Obviously, Snorlax seems better, but it gives you an option to use. It's got free retreat. I could also see this seeing play with Zoroark V-Star, since you run Gapejaw Bog, you damaging yourself, you damage this, it evolves into a 150 HP thing, so like it's not really at risk of being deleted with like a Greninja or something like that on your bench, and it's got the free retreat as a pivot. The second attack also doing 180 damage for 3 colorless. It's a good way to fix up some numbers. You can take out like a Luminion V or something if you can get this charged up. What else do we have here? Minccino, Chinchino. So Chinchino's starting to see play with Lugia V-Star. 2 colorless energy, 70 damage for each special energy card attached to this Pokemon. Special energy card, not energy on this Pokemon. So double turbo energy would count as 1 energy. But if you committed 5 special energy to this, you're doing 350, you're deleting Charizards. Lugia only does 220, so you need something that can do higher numbers. This is something that can do higher numbers. You go Archeops, Archeops, attach for turn. That's for your 5 energy. Take a knockout. It's cool. I like it. What else we got? Iron Jugulus. If this Pokemon's in the active and takes damage from an opponent's attack, you get to put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. That's not too bad. And do 110 damage for 3 energy. Like it seems fine. Maybe for GLC. For the trainer cards, Ancient Booster Capsule, it looks like a reprint. I don't know if we're also getting that in our set. I think we are. Awakening Drum, so it's a item card. It's an Ace Spec. You get to draw a card for each of your ancient Pokemon in play. So theoretically, a straight draw 6 on an item, and then you can still use a supporter to draw even further. Bianca's Devotion, heal all damage from one of your Pokemon with 30 HP or less remaining. This boxed order, search your deck for 2 item cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Like for control decks, yeah. It ends your turn though, so a little bit risky. Buddy Buddy Poffin, VIP pass for single prize Pokemon basically. So search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, put them onto your bench. Not limited to first turn of the game. Very powerful card. Blueberry gives you another attacker in the same turn. This card is big, you think? The box? The box will be alright. It ends your turn though. Like box already, it ends your turn. For control, I could see it. Like, because Snorlax Doll, they're not declaring anything ever. Like, maybe Rotom. So if it's just, hey, get into an item card, you're fine. Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking. This one is not fully on the screen. We are going back up a little bit. But you get to search your deck for 2 cards, shuffle your deck, put those on top in any order. So if you have things that need to get specifically into things off the top deck, like Electro Generator or Matang, this is a good way to get those online. If you want to be making sure that you're effectively Iono proofed. So it's like, hey, if your opponent goes Iono, you put your hand on the bottom of your deck, you know exactly what you're drawing into. It's like, I need a boss next turn, or I need to research next turn. Just set it up. If you're running Bibarel as a draw engine, just put 2 things on top of your deck. If you know you're going to draw into 2 things off Bibarel, now you're drawing into those things. It's solid. That with Greninja, also another good one. MW, this is the card you thought would be good with Xatu and Iron Valiant. I could see that. Yeah, because the Xatu is attached to Psychic Draw 2, right? It's kind of free Arceus V-Star effect. Like kind of. Arceus V-Star immediately gets him into hand. It's like Arceus V-Star you can use to get into a supporter. This, if you're using it to get into a supporter, you can't use that supporter. Like if you need boss for game, it's not quite getting you there. It's pretty strong though. Like I could see this as a 1 or 2 of in some decks. If it's a Bibarel heavy deck, like if you know you're running Bibarel, this could definitely be included as like a one-off. Eerie is a interesting supporter for control decks. I think people are a little more scared of it than they should be, and some people are ignoring it entirely when they shouldn't be. So it's like kind of flying under some people's radar, and then other people are like, oh my god, this card's broken. It's like, it's not broken. Like they're like, oh, Jesse and James got banned, this is going to get banned. No, Jesse and James messed with your hand regardless. This, you get to choose 2 item cards you find in your opponent's hand and discard them. Item cards, a lot of times you're using them immediately, like your nest balls, your ultra balls, your rare candies. As soon as you have them, if you're able to use them, they're likely gone. Like, yeah, switch and stuff like that into block collects. This is going to be a pain if you're trying to hold on to those resources. But I don't see this being like every deck's running it. Control is going to be running it. 100% Control is going to be running it, but I don't see it being like that, like consistent of a threat that you need to be too concerned. You think you might pair that with Sharpedo? Use this, get rid of their items, then flip coins, try and get rid of the rest of their hand? Yeah. You could like also run this with Arbok, try and get rid of their hands. Explorer's Guidance. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck, put 2 of them into your hand, discard the others. Great way to get the single prize Roaring Moon online. Great way to get energy in the discard to charge up Sada. Cool card. Full Metal Lab. Talked about this earlier. It makes it so your steel type Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks. I like it. Future Boost Capsule. We've got it already. Hand Trimmer. Both players discard cards from their hand until they have 5 cards. Your opponent discards first. So there's some decks that are building large hand sizes. Most are usually keeping them around 5. If this starts seeing play, there is a counter already in Amoonguss, which if it's discarded, I think your opponent has to discard their entire hand. And when this gets played, you get to decide what gets discarded. So if this starts seeing play, it's just, hey, I'm going to have 1 Amoonguss in my deck now. Get out of here. Cool card, though. Definitely see play in Control because they just want things that can mess with your opponent. And if they're trying to build up resources because they know that you're trying to lock them, it's just like, hey, use it. Lost Box also, they often get into like 10 to 12 card hands. Just get rid of stuff. Like it. So Heavy Baton, if the Pokemon this is attached to has exactly 4 retreat, when it gets knocked out, you can move 3 basic energy from it to one of your bench Pokemon. Iron Hands has 4 retreat. You can just run a deck of all Iron Hands. It's pretty silly. Hero's Cape. You can attach this to any Pokemon. Gets an extra 100 HP. Unlike Bravery Charm, which is specifically basics, it is an Ace Spec, so you only get 1. There'll be situations where this is cool. There'll also be situations where your opponent goes Lost Vacuum and it's gone. Be mindful of it. We've got Master Ball. You get to search your deck for Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand. Ultra Ball without needing to discard. It's pretty good. I know Lugia has been playing it post-rotation in Japan, so like it has come up already. I think the only one that hasn't seen play yet is Neo Upper Energy. So I think even the Cape, there's been use cases for it. Like Cape and Guja, for example, would be kind of silly. Maximum Belt, we've talked about this quite a few times already tonight. Just 50 extra damage to EXs. It's great. Morty's Conviction. You can use this card only if you discard another card from your hand. Draw a card for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's straight draw. You're only ditching one. That's good. We had, what was it, Zinnia's Resolve that was ditch 2 for this effect. This is just, hey, ditch 1. Zinnia's is rotating. It was from Evolving Skies. This is coming in. Just seems like an immediate improvement on that. There is cards that depend on having large hand sizes to do big effects. Goldengo, for example, they want straight draw. Here's some straight draw for it. Tinkaton, if you're trying to make that work, here's some straight draw for it. It's cool. Stadium, we did mention it already. If you're poisoned, put 2 more damage counters on each poison Pokemon. Silly. It's good. Prime Catcher, probably the strongest Ace Spec so far. The following set, we're getting another really broken one. But it's basically the supporter card Guzma on an item. So you switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon, and you switch your active with one of your bench. You get to pick the targets, which is really good. So you're getting a gust effect and can still use a draw supporter for turn. It is an item, so if there's ways to re-abuse items or reuse and abuse, yeah, it works. You can obviously get this off multiple times, like Darkrai V-Star, for example. They can use their V-Star power, get item cards back. They can get this back. They can use it again. Definitely interesting if you're pairing that with Roaring Moon EX to just make sure you're constantly targeting exactly what you want to use, while still being able to use Professor Sada to accelerate energy out to the Roaring Moons to attack. It's cool. We're getting Reboot Bot, which is some energy acceleration for future Paradox Pokemon. Choose one basic energy from your discard pile and attach it to each of your future Pokemon in play. It's nice. You've got to get them in the discard, but like mid to late game, that seems really strong. Rescue Board, if this Pokemon is attached, the Pokemon this is attached to pays 1 colorless less to retreat. If it has 30 HP or less, it has no retreat cost. So like if you're tanking a hit and are like just scraping by for your retreat, I hope you don't get Sableye off the bench or just immediately gusted up or Toy Catchered back up. We are getting Salvatore. So wait, does Toy Catcher might be rotating. Was that Evolving Skies? Maybe you don't get Toy Catchered up. Salvatore, though, search your deck for a Pokemon, except any Pokemon with abilities that evolves from one of your Pokemon, and put it onto the Pokemon to evolve it. Oh, I thought it was rule box. Abilities. Oh, okay, cool. Interesting. Then shuffle your deck. Do we have any non-ability EXs that this could be kind of broken on? I swore it was rule box. Interesting. But yeah, like this with Venomoth, this with Bronzong. You can do some pretty dirty things to people. We're getting Mist Energy. As long as this is attached to a Pokemon, it's 1 colorless energy, and you prevent all effects of attacks done to your Pokemon. So you're preventing things that are paralyzing, you're preventing things that are poisoning, burning you, saying you're knocked out. Roaring Moon, Giratina. This card is printed for you. Temple of Sinnoh will shut this off. They can get around you that way. We are getting a reprint of Enhanced Hammer. It's coming out in Crimson Haze for Japan, and our Masquerade set or whatever it's called, the Mask Dude, Teal Mask, whenever that set comes out, I think it's May. Enhanced Hammer comes out, you can get rid of this. Is what it is. The meta's always adapting. You have to be ready for it. It's a cool card though, and I feel like it's needed. And last and certainly least, Neo Upper Energy. So as long as this is attached to a stage 2 Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only 2 energy at a time. It's not limited to like if you're behind on prizes or any of that. It's just, hey, it's a stage 2. So Meowscarada could be using this as an additional double colorless energy. Alakazam could be using this as some psychic energies. Charizard could be using this, except its ability gets you energy from the deck, so Charizard will not be using this. It's cool. There'll be use cases at some point, I'm sure, but of the other Ace Specs, I feel like the other effects are just too good to justify this. And like the fact that we're getting Enhanced Hammer, you can get rid of this. We have Temple of Sinnoh, it effectively shuts this off. I don't think it's strong enough. It's a cool card. I like what they're trying to do with it, but I compared to what we already have, just no. And we also get to see the secret rares, but those I feel like are more fun to discover as you pull them. We'll look at 3. You're getting a Deerling, a Groddle, and a Shiftry. Other than that, you just have to, you know, have a little bit of fun at pre-release. Keep some surprises in it. Can't do like a full review. That just kills it. For those of you watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed it. For those of you watching on Twitch, well, hey guys, how's it going? We're still live. Going to be calling it a night there, though, so we are going to see who else is online. Send a raid over. If you haven't already, though, and I haven't ended the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below to feed the algorithm monster, and until next time, stay golden. All right, and that would be the end of the YouTube video, so now I'm just talking to you guys. That was neat. I haven't done that live with... live on Twitch before. I normally do it just like me and the computer to kind of like fire through it. But yeah, it's cool. It's good to get input from you guys. And thanks very much for everyone that kind of helped out along the way as like the release dates of the set. You're like, oh, March 22nd. I'm like, thank you. You the MVP. Coincidence. Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. We are going to call it night there, though. I said I would end it at 10 o'clock. It is now 10:50. It is now 10:50. And we're going to switch screens so you don't see what I see on Twitch.